What's going on, everybody? We are back, episode number 218 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight, we're going to be chatting UFC Des Moines. We are back to random cities in Middle America for
Better than
UFC events.
Apex, though.
What was that? Is it?
Apex, though.
I don't know. I mean, I don't hate it. It's nice being cap big cages again, so that's cool.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, before we get into it, guys, drop a like, subscribe. Share the video if you so choose. Help us out a lot. And yeah, let's break down last night real quick. I won 0.9 units. Pretty ho-hum card. I kept it pretty small. I had a half a unit on Abus Magomedov by decision plus 480. That hit. I had the over 1.5 in Muniz Alaskarov. That did not hit. I had 2 units on Timmy Kawumba plus 118. That did hit. And sadly, as Cameron Junkin just pointed out in the chat, Malcolm Bowmaker knocked out Cameron Simon. So I lost 2 units there, and I owe a shot bet for that. So I took the only liquor I have at the moment, which is Casamigos. So we're going to do a tequila shot. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, gonna go fancy. It's like the end of the bottle, so I need to refill it soon. But yeah, how was your night? How did you do?
Not a great night. So lost my parlay, and it came down to the Kawamba fight actually going the distance. And I don't know about you, but I thought Tyone came in and stopped that pretty early. Thought that fight was definitely sailing to go the distance. So that was unfortunate. And then the only other bet I had was Michelle Pereira money line, which everybody, kind of saw that performance that he had. Kind of looked like he had AIDS before the fight even started.
Yeah, it was very, very strange. The Kawamba one, it was definitely an early stoppage.
Yeah.
I mean, he hurt him bad, but Romero seemed to be... He didn't really give him a chance.
Well, there has to be some consistency. Like, you have Tyone stopping that one pretty quick. Cheers. And then you have Herzog, who let Anthony Smith absolutely just take shots to the back of the head. Anthony, you there? Anthony, keep fighting. Anthony, you there? It's like, dude.
It was a really weird... It was a really weird and really poorly officiated card. I watched a lot of it this morning because I was out last night. But we had Murgliata stop 3 fights early. Yeah, I mean, Cameron just said in the chat the 10-second clapper, which was bizarre. We had the early stoppage there. The Smith fight was like crazy. Like the guy was clearly done. And sadly, we may have another fight like that this week. I knew a bunch of people who bet Anthony Smith. I wanted to talk myself into it, but I feel like that's the bet that the type of bet that killed me in 2023 and 2024 was betting on these guys who were just clearly done. And to me, Anthony Smith was as visibly done as you could see. And you saw it last night. He had 30 seconds of energy, and then the fight was basically over, Yep. So it was tough. But yeah, let's talk about this one. It's an interesting card. I've only made one bet thus far. I'm looking at a couple more. I haven't decided 100% if I'll make them. But again, I feel like we're getting, I don't want to call it shit, but these cards feel like they've been a lot less straightforward recently. What was that?
There is a lot of shit mixed in throughout.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll start at the top. We got Juliana Miller taking on Ivana Petrovic. Current price, Petrovic, decent sized favorite. She's minus 235. The comeback on Miller is plus 200. What are your thoughts here, Lex?
This is actually one of the first bets I made of the card. So I have a unit on Miller at plus 180. Just think it's more closer to a 50-50 fight. On the feet, I know Miller, it's pretty ugly. I get it. But, Petrovic is no world beater on the feet either. I think it's pretty close to 50-50 standing. And in terms of the grappling, I think Miller could have her own offensive success here. So plus 180 doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, I bet Miller as well. I have a unit and a half on her plus 195 as my average price. It's pretty weird because, I was not very high on Juliana Miller coming into the UFC.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm very high on Juliana Miller right now, but, she does some things okay. She's a pretty good grappler if she can get on top, or very good grappler if she can get on top. She pushes a heavy pace. She's very durable. She's got great cardio. I know the last fight looked really bad. I don't know how many people realize this because I didn't realize it in real time, but she tore her she dislocated her left shoulder about a minute into that fight. And you can actually see it when you watch it back. She can't, and that's why she's eating so many shots. She can't even get her hand up. She's just getting wailed on. I actually thought prior to that, she had the right approach. She came out pressuring a lot, pushing a pretty heavy pace. And it's interesting on the other side, because I think Ivana is probably better at Miller technically in most places. I mean, she's obviously the better striker. Grappling, I think she's probably the better wrestler, and she might be a bit stronger. But something that bothers me about her is I feel like she's kind of an exister, like she's okay when she gets on top, but like Na Liang, even tired, was kind of beating her up on the feet, even though she's technically better than Liang. Liang just was kind of spamming volume at her. We know that's what Miller is going to do. I don't think Petrovic has much stopping power. So I feel like margins are going to be close on the feet because Petrovic is better, but Miller's just busier. And in the grappling, if it hits the mat, like maybe Petrovic is just too strong and can just hold her down easily. I could see that happening. But if she can, if Miller can get the top position, I think she's going to wreck her here, honestly. Like, I'm not saying that's like my prediction for the fight is she wrecks her, but I think if Miller can get on top of her, she's going to have a lot of success. I don't like Ivana on bottom, a lot of heel hook pulling and stuff like that, tries for knee bars. And I do like Miller on top. So, yeah, I mean, Miller's terrible, but I don't really understand her being plus 190 to Ivana Petrovic. Small bet for me. Not the most passionate take ever, but I think she should compete here.
I think they're similar in skill level. So I think that's why the line's
It depends. I think it depends how you view skill level. Like, Petrovic is a much better striker, in my opinion. Like, technically, she's much better.
Right, but if they stood and struck for like 15, you think it would not be close? Like, more often than not, though? Like,
I
don't think there's going to be a clear edge there standing, is my point, I guess.
I do think it would be close just because I think Miller is going to push volume on her, right. And that goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Moving on, though, we got a couple big guys. We got Dontel Mays trying to hang on to his job. He's taken on another grappler in Thomas Peterson. Current price, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Peterson just got hit. Yep, Peterson minus 240. Comeback on Mays plus 205. What are your thoughts here, Lags?
Another bet I have made on this fight, too. So I have Peterson in a parlay at minus 235. I think the obvious advantage he has in this fight specifically is the offensive grappling. He can land takedowns, I think, pretty much at will against Dontel Mays. But even on the feet, I mean, he's going to be the one coming forward, throwing more volume. I mean, I guess Mays can make it competitive over some big moments if this goes 15. But I think Peterson has huge advantages in the grappling.
Yeah, I don't know, because like I went into tape thinking I was going to blast Peterson here. That was kind of my intention because obviously, we know the drill with Mays at this point. I think we both faded him in his last two fairly easily, but I really don't like Peterson's control. It makes me very nervous. I feel like what Mays does, like the way Mays will like shrimp into you, and it's pretty easy to capitalize on, like if you're going to pass to another position. But I've seen a bunch of guys do that to Peterson and work up that way. And that kind of concerns me just because I think it'll be competitive on the feet just because Peterson pushes a pace. But unlike, Juliana Miller and Ivana Petrovic who are fighting at women's 115 or 125, they're fighting at heavyweight, and taking the Juliana Miller approach of go forward with your chin in the air at heavyweight is, as we saw in his last fight, it is a recipe for disaster. And on top of that, the big concern for me, or one of the big concerns, Peterson just got put out cold like less than 3 months ago. That was very recent, the Shamil fight. So I'm with you. I think he should win minutes. I think he should get takedowns. I think he should win the fight. But I think Mays, if he's at all serious, should get enough time on the feet that I could see him finding some big shots in this fight. So I don't know. I'm gonna pass it at the juice. If we got like Peterson like minus 180, I would definitely take part in that. But
so how do you feel about like overs then in GTD? Like, you think that's good then?
I actually kind of like under, honestly.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I know Peterson and Mays have both kind of been over merchants, but I feel like a lot of Mays's finishing equity runs through, or win equity runs through knocking Peterson out. Yeah. And
that's fair.
I do think Peterson does throw pretty ferocious ground and pound. And like if Mays starts to slow down like he did against Shamil and Peterson's getting takedowns and then consolidating, I think he could finish Mays on the mat. So I'm not passionate about it, but I kind of lean the under here.
All right.
Moving on, we got Gaston Bolanos taking on Quan Lei. Current price, Bolanos minus 155. The comeback on Lei plus 135. What do you think, Danny?
I'm good. Cracking out a little bit now. No.
Yeah, you're crackling a bit, but it's all right.
All right. Hopefully we can push through a little bit. Sorry about that. This is a pretty just low level fight in general, in my opinion. Like, I mean, I get Quang Li. Like, I get the takes on the Quang Li side, like push the offensive grappling pace here, but I don't think he's a particularly great fighter in general. Like, wrestling doesn't seem too great. Striking seems less than to be desired. I mean, Bolaños, I think, is just going to land the harder shots here across 15.
Yeah, I mean, Bolaños is bad. I faded him with Cortavius Romeus in his last fight, which was a terrible bet. But I felt like watching that fight. It wasn't an uncompetitive fight, you know? It was like very, very close, despite the fact that Romeus only landed 15 significant strikes, which is concerning. So I thought I might like Lei, but to your point, yeah, Lei can get on top of him and like control him. Like I could see that, and I could see him winning a decision that way. But I also don't think Lei is the best grappler ever, and he is pretty low volume on the feet. You know, like Bolaños is the better striker, and I think we'll throw in more intent. I mean, Bolaños, I guess they have similar level of UFC experience at this point, but I don't know. I'm not like passionate about it. Like if Lei's output was a bit higher, I would bet him here just because I think, you know, the grappling gives him some upside. And I may still bet him. I'm not sure because I don't want to turn around and be like, oh, I bet Cortavius Romeus a juice for the grappling upside. And now I'm taking Gaston Bolaños against the wrestler. Like that would just be very very dumb. But I don't think Lei's any good. Like that's the problem, and that's really what's bothering me because like I can see him winning this fight.
No, not at all.
And I think the grappling upside does give him a reasonably high ceiling and floor in the matchup. I just don't trust this guy to stamp rounds at all. Obviously, he's not fighting Chris Gutierrez here or even Long Zhao here, but I expect this fight to be close and it's lined competitively. But I don't feel passionate as of yet on it. So we'll see. I'm passing. I guess at the price, I lean Lei, but there's no strong conviction there. Moving on, we got Marina Rodriguez. She's taking on Jillian Robertson. Current price, Jillian minus 325. The comeback on Rodriguez plus 275. It's kind of interesting. I feel like Jillian has not gotten... She's starting to get more market respect here. And obviously in this fight, it's an obvious reason why, which is that if you ground Marina, she can't really get up. And obviously Jillian is elite on top. I do have concerns that Jillian, you know, has struggled with physicality in the past though. And obviously if she struggles to get Marina down, she's pretty screwed in this matchup. So it's super binary, right? Expectation, I sort of think she's going to get the takedowns and is going to dominate on top. Like that's my instinct. But at the same time, it is a step up in competition. And Marina is tall and not like that easy to take down if you're not a skilled wrestler. Like we saw Tisha Torres try to take her down a million times and not be able to. And yeah, I don't know. I have no interest in a side. I think Jillian's a deserved big favorite just because her upside is so high in the fight. I got to see till limits open up on it, but I do kind of like the over here at minus 136. Like Marina is very hard to finish on bottom. You know, she spent a ton of time under Verna. She spent a ton of time under Carla. She spent time under Ribas on bottom. And she's very, very good at getting her guard back and surviving, you know? And I look at this and I'm like, yeah, Jillian could get on top, maul her, sub her. It wouldn't be shocking. But Jillian's gone to a bunch of decisions. It's not like she finishes every woman she fights. And I don't think Jillian is like more skilled on top than Verna is. So I like this fight. I like this fight to go over and go the distance, to be honest. Maybe Marina keeps it upright and knocks her out. But I mean, Jillian's a tough broad, man. Like I don't think she's going to be easy to just knock out, you know?
I think more of your risk there, John, is Jillian finishing on the mat.
Yeah, and I I shouldn't say it can't happen. It obviously could. I just don't think it's very, very high percentage. What's your thought on this fight?
I kind of think the line's fine where it's at. Like, I'm not, I guess, looking to lay the juice on Jillian, but I think that's the side I'd be looking, if anything, if the price were to ever come in. But again, I think the takedown should be coming easy for her. And to your point, I think
What's up?
the over is probably a good look too. If a finish materializes either.
Yeah, I agree. I'm only interested in over here. I don't really have any interest in the side. And we'll see. I'll see where the line is when that opens up a bit. Next up, we have, I don't want to call it a banger. It could be a fun fight. We got Azamat Bekoyev taking on Ryan Loder. Current price, Bekoyev minus 380 to come back on Loder plus 315. I only say it could be a fun fight because I think Bekoyev is going to like beat the piss out of Loder, to be quite frank. I bet Loder pretty big in his last fight. I think he's a decent wrestler for the division. I think he can win fights at this level if he's got a wrestling advantage, but his striking is pretty herky-jerky. Not a lot of defense there. And I just, I don't think he can out-wrestle Bekoyev. Very much surprised me if he could. I expect Bekoyev to be the better wrestler of the two. And standing, I just think it's not close. I think Bekoyev should run through him on the feet here. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I think it's pretty... I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, Loder probably needs to meme something or Bekoyev show up like Michelle Pereira to win this fight. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Bekoyev's at half of my parlay there with Peterson.
Okay.
Minus 370. Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think he is going to beat the piss out of him. On the feet, I mean, he's going to land the much harder shots here. Loder's a mess standing, very herky-jerky, very limited striking defense, to your point. And in the grappling, I think Bekoyev's the much better wrestler here. Should be able to have top time here. And I think unless he really gassed out on the back half here, that's really the only way I see Loder pulling it out.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving on, we got a senior division fight. We got Yana Santos taking on Miesha Tate. Current price, Miesha Tate minus 147. The comeback on Yana plus 127. What do you think, Lags? You think Miesha's got one more in her?
Well, it's interesting because like all of her wins are over like the senior, like the retirement home division, really. I mean, Marion Monroe and then Julia Vila, both in their retirement fights. So is this Yana Santos' retirement fight, really? I mean, to be honest, I think the line's fine-ish. Like Tate as a small favorite. Like I think she can probably get the takedowns here, but if she doesn't, like it's probably a competitive fight standing.
Yeah, I'm considering betting Tate pretty much for exactly what you just said. I guess like Tate's 38 years old and she hasn't fought in a year and a half. So yeah, they're both on the way out. If she shows up and she's just done, that could happen. But like my base case here is that if they're on the feet or in the clinch, it's probably going to be pretty close. Like even the Murphy fight, it wasn't like an all-out beating, and same deal with like Ketlin. Like Tate struck with Ketlin for 25 minutes to a fairly competitive decision. Obviously, that fight was a few years ago now, but I feel like if they're standing, Yana's best advantage is in the clinch. I don't think she's going to like style on Tate on the feet. It would surprise me a little bit at any rate. I think Yana's got almost no finishing upside. Like she's got like one finish in the last 10 years. And Miesha is a tough fighter. And then you have just like a really, really, really high ceiling for Tate here. Like, Tate's a pretty good wrestler. Yana historically defends takedowns at 42%. Just not a good defensive wrestler. Got taken down twice by Aspen Ladd, 3 times by Vieira, 4 times by Holm. And Yana, when she gets to her back, is just kind of helpless there. Can't get out of guard. Just really bad on bottom. And so like I look at this fight, I'm like, man, worst case scenario is it's a close fight to slightly in Yana. And the best case, if Tate can get takedowns here, she could look like -3, -400 in this fight. So yeah, she's old. She might be at the end. And I guess, and that's the real, downside is the floor could be quite low on her. But the floor could be quite low on Yana, for being honest, too. She's almost 36 years old. She almost never fights. Yeah, I like Tate. I'm going to probably bet her here. To Paul's point in the chat, when we've seen if Tate comes out in the same way she did against Avila and she's able to get on top of Yana like that easily, it could be it could be an ugly fight for Yana. I'm not saying that'll happen. I do have concerns about Tate's age, like real concerns, but I do think she's got a lot more upside in this fight than Yana does, and I'm going to probably take her because of that. Speaking of retirement home, we have a man who has not fought in MMA since 2022 coming back to the UFC, and Jeremy Stephens to take on Mason Jones in his return fight. Pretty cool fight here. Current price is big. We got Mason Jones minus 530 to come back on Jeremy Stephens plus 415. But I honestly, I can't really argue with it, to be frank. I mean, Mason Jones, he's moving into his prime, still a pretty young fighter. Honestly, even him getting cut, seemed a little absurd to begin with. He lost to Ludovic Klein, but that fight's aged pretty well. And he didn't disgrace himself in that fight by any means. He beat David Onama. He fought Mike Davis very, very, very close. And now he went and got 4 wins in Cage Warriors, and now he's back in the UFC. The guy's a punching bag, and I guess that's the big concern against a hitter like Jeremy Stephens. He could get knocked out, but he's also historically very durable. He pushes the pace. He's a judo black belt. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. He's pretty good from top position. Got very, very good cardio. And he's taking on Stephens, who, look, if this was Stephens in his prime, obviously you bet Stephens against the guy that gets hit as easily as Mason Jones does. But like Jeremy Stephens, like I said, he's been boxing. He was just doing bare knuckle. He hasn't had an MMA fight since 2022. And the last couple MMA fights he did have, he looked pretty washed in. So I don't really see any reason to think he won't be washed. I guess you can go narrative nation here that it's in his backyard, and that's why they brought him back for this fight. But I think Jones is just, at this point, probably has a much better hardware than Stephens. He's much, much more determined than this is a guy who's restarting, or not restarting his MMA career, but he's hungry. And Jeremy Stephens is showing up for a paycheck in front of his hometown. My instinct is Jones is going to run through him and probably finish him. Look, if Stephens knocks him out, will it be the craziest thing ever? No, but I think the days of Jeremy Stephens getting wins inside the octagon are over. What are your thoughts, Legs?
Yes. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Much better.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Honestly, I don't have much to add. To add some more narrative nation, though, Jeremy Stephens said this is literally a one and done fight contract for the UFC, and if it doesn't pan out well, then he's just going to go right back to the BKFC. Is exactly what he said. So I think Jones should finish him. To be honest, I think he has a huge grappling advantage. So curious to see. I don't know. I haven't looked at the totals, to be honest with you. So I don't know where the under. I'm thinking the under 2.5 is probably decent.
It's 1.5, and the under's plus 180. Honestly, I don't even hate that. To be frank, that's a. If Stephens shows up in the form we're expecting him to show up in, it wouldn't really be shocking if he got run over and finished. So
and most of his
what was that?
And most of his win equity is a finish.
Yeah, I totally. I think almost all of his win equity, to be honest. Moving on, we got Serhi Seedy. He's taking on Cameron Smotherman. We've had a lot of steam on the Smotherman line today. Current price, Seedy minus 140. Come back on Smotherman plus 120. What do you think here, Legs?
Kind of curious to see where this line ends up closing out, because I feel like it's a little bit of a market overcorrection from the last fight with Jake Hadley, him on short notice there. City's pretty hittable himself, but I feel like technically as a striker, I think he's much better than Smotherman. And to the grappling, I think he can land takedowns here as well. I think Smotherman's just very, very defensively void on the feet. I think City's got a lot of advantages both in the stand-up and in the grappling.
Yeah, I agree with you, to be honest. I haven't decided if I'll bet it, but I do lean the CD side fairly strongly. I mean, he throws way more output than Smotherman does. Yeah. I think he's got a bit better cardio. I do worry about how hittable he is, because when he gets in the pocket, he does take pictures, and he can get hurt. Obviously, Ramon Tavares knocked him out of Contender Series. You heard him a couple more times, in their second meeting. Smotherman does have power, but CD, the Contender stoppage was pretty quick, and CD tends to recover very, very quickly. And if we're talking about guys being, chinny, I actually think Cameron Smotherman is very chinny. He got hurt late by Hadley. He got buckled a couple times in that fight. People forgot about that. And yeah, I think CD can hurt him and knock him out here. I said going into the Hadley fight, the reason I wasn't taking the huge dog shot on Smotherman was because this guy looked very helpless when he gets put on the bottom. Now, I don't think CD is a great wrestler by any means, so it is possible he won't have much success grappling him. but I would not be at all surprised to see CD have some significant grappling success here. And like, he's had more UFC fights. He throws more output. He's taller. He's longer. I like him better as a prospect. Paul saying, what about goes the distance? I think this is going to be a barn burner, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sweaty. I was just going to comment. I think it's going to be sweaty as hell. Like, I mean, I guess I would lean more on the GTD side at that number, but it's going to be a sweaty ass GTD.
Yeah, and I kind of like CD as a prospect. He's pretty young. I mean, he's improving. They're both pretty young, and they both should be improving. But I think CD is starting with like a better base of skills than Smotherman has, and like I kind of expect him to improve more rapidly than Smotherman. Yeah, I like the CD side here. I don't know if I'll bet it or not. If it keeps coming in, I will though. I think the output and grappling upside alone are probably enough to deserve like, minus 160 range at least, So, yeah. Moving on, we got a banger fight here. Montel Jackson, Daniel Marcos, current price, Montel Jackson minus 220, comeback on Marcos plus 185. I am a bit upset I didn't get in on the earlier Montel numbers here. I know Daniel Marcos, big time prospect, undefeated. Everybody loves the guy. I think it's a really tough fight for him. Look, if he can get inside Montel's range, then yeah, he can obviously win this fight. He's a good striker. He hits hard. He's dangerous. But Montel is like the guy's entire frame is a cheat code. He's a great athlete who is 5'10" with a 75-inch reach at bantamweight. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage here, 3-inch height advantage. He's the faster guy, in my opinion. He hits hard, much harder, in my opinion. He's the much better grappler of the two. Yeah, I mean, Marcos is dangerous, and Marcos could finish him, but I think fighting a southpaw, I don't think is ideal for Marcos without having the calf kick available. I think him trying to throw body kicks at Montel means he's going to have to come into Montel's counter range, which I think is very, very dangerous. And honestly, I know Montel hasn't fought the best level of competition, but the way he just totally shut down Julio Arce's offense impressed me quite a bit a couple fights ago. I kind of think we could see something similar here where he's just playing kind of the outside game and just using his frame better. But yeah, I think he's got the grappling upside. I think he's got more finishing equity, more knockout equity in this fight. Yeah, I shouldn't say I like Montel here. I think the price is fine, minus 220, minus 230 range. But yeah, I think he has Marcos pretty covered. But it should be a fun fight. I'm excited to see how it plays out. What do you think?
I'll keep this one pretty brief. I completely agree with you, John. Where the price is at where it's now, not super interested. But yeah, I think the grappling advantage is pretty big here for Montel. And even on the feet, huge reach advantage, huge length advantage. Much faster, hits much harder.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 3.5% knockdown rate, which is like heavyweight numbers, like good heavyweight knockdown numbers. Yeah. Like the guy is just like, he just doesn't fight. That's his problem. And maybe that'll bite him in the ass here. Maybe he's rusty and Marcos is just taking his career more seriously. But I'm not gonna. If I'm betting against Montel Jackson, it's gonna be with a grappler. It's not gonna be with a kickboxer like that.
I think it's tough too. On top of him not fighting a ton, it's like the biggest name really that he fought was Blackshear, and it's like he iced him quick. It's like
I mean, he fought. Yeah, he did lose to the only other two really guys he fought, Simone and Johns. But yeah, that was a fun
Johns there. Yep,
we did. Yeah, that was very fun. But yeah, I think he's going to win this fight, personally. Yeah. Moving on. Cool fight here. Another old guys fight. Loser leaves town match. Playing for pink slips. We got Daniel Rodriguez taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Current price, Ponzinibbio minus 120. The comeback on D-Rod plus 100. What are your thoughts?
This is another one that kind of spooked me a bit, to be honest. And I guess I'll keep it, again, a little bit brief. But I like D-Rod as a dog here. I think volume and durability edges on his side for me.
I think it's an interesting fight, and I don't have a super strong take on it yet. It's weird because Ponzinibbio has his durability is clearly deteriorating rapidly.
Yeah,
but he's had his performances have been so all over the place. You look at this guy's last 6 fights, and it's a split with Jeff Neal that he loses. It's a split with Michel Pereira that he loses. He knocks out Alex Morono in a fight that was pretty sweaty. He got clubbed by Morono a couple times in that fight. Yeah. The Kevin Holland fight where he actually performed okay. He fought pretty reasonably well with Holland. The split decision. What was that? Yeah. He fought Salikov very close, lost a split. he fought Carlston Harris, almost got knocked out, and then knocked Harris out. So the concerns about his durability, in my opinion, are extremely real. But with that said, I think he's showing he still is skilled enough to fight at a pretty high level. And I think he's the more skilled fighter in this matchup. I think he's the better striker than Rodriguez from a technical standpoint. To your point, though, I do trust Rodriguez's durability a lot more than I trust Ponzinibbio's. I think his output's a bit more reliable, and I think Ponzinibbio fighting out of open stance without, the calf kicks being readily available means he's going to have to exchange in the fire a lot more. But I don't know. I have a weird feeling about it because I still think Pons is a bit faster than D-Rod. I think he sets up his shots a bit better, and I think he sets up counters a lot better than D-Rod does. So, yeah, I mean, I think it should be a competitively lined fight. I guess my instinct is the same as yours, where it's like D-Rod's output is we know it's reliable. We know it's going to be there. His durability is a bit more trustworthy at this point. But let's be real. Both of these guys are like 38 years old and probably and are certainly on the back nine of their careers. Neither is what they were a few years ago. I'm expecting a competitive fight. I think Ponzinibbio could have more. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. I don't want to say upside, but like if one of them was to win like a clean 30-27, I would lean to that being Ponzinibbio just on him being the more technical, talented striker. But yeah, I also think Ponzinibbio's floor with where his chin is at this point is super, super low. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have a pick here. I think minus 120 either side probably makes sense, personally.
All right.
Moving on, we got a interesting fight here. We got Rene de Ridder. He's taking out Bo Nickel. Current price, Bo Nickel minus 280 to come back on de Ridder, plus 240. What do you think, Legs?
I mean, you obviously know, huge Penn State guy, so going to be rooting for Bo. But to be honest with you, I'm having a hard time picture how this fight's going to like play out. Like, could Bo stand and strike for 15 minutes with de Ridder? Sure. Like, de Ridder's like a bit of a mess standing himself, but I mean, it's going to be pretty sweaty. And in terms of the grappling, he could probably land takedowns too, but I mean, de Ridder's a massive, massive guy. I honestly think a Bo decision at like a decent number might be a decent hope here because I know the over's like 1.5 here. Pretty decent shock, but I think Bo should be fine here personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bo's going to probably smash in this fight, to be honest. I mean, Ridder could hurt him on the feet for sure, or get on top of him somehow and submit him. Although I'm very, very skeptical that de Ridder can get on top of Nickel or take Nickel down here. And I actually think Nickel could get on top of de Ridder and ruin him. Like, I don't think de Ridder is all that likely to sweep Bo. And I think, Bo on top is obviously extremely dangerous. But yeah, on the feet, I trust Bo's cardio more. I trust his durability more. I trust his toughness more. I still am not sold that on de Ridder having, great toughness under pressure. I still think that GM3 fight was a absolutely hideous look. And there's a couple ugly ones on one too, I know
and what's like the fresh ever a little bit for like his UFC debut. Like that was GM3, but like that was tough, man. That was like an easy, like not to say it's like a layup, but like that is a stylistical perfect matchup for a guy like de Ridder.
Yeah, it is. And he looked like he was on his way to losing that fight. And GM3 is not a guy who's normally winning minutes, and he was winning minutes in that fight. And I guess that's my issue. And I know that what's fresh in everyone's minds is Bo, underperforming against Paul Craig. But I feel like there's a tad bit of recency bias in there. He's still a young fighter, who's improving. He's at ATT. He's got power. No, he didn't knock out Craig, but that doesn't mean he's not going to knock out Rene de Ridder either,
And hear me out too. Like, listen, it was a bit of a ho-hum performance, but at the same time, great IQ though. Didn't go.
Yeah, he never engaged him. The one place that Craig could win.
30-27, Paul Craig, easy win.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. My instinct here is that Bo's going to have zero issues keeping this on the feet if he wants it there. Right. If he wants it down, he can put it there and finish it. I mean, the guy was like minus 900 to Paul Craig and now minus 280 here. I actually am honestly like thinking about taking the chalk here, to be honest. I really am. I think because he could, the truth is he can dictate where this goes. If he ever gets in trouble, he can put de Ridder on the mat. I know de Ridder's a black belt, but like dude, Bo Nickel had like a freaking submission grappling match with Gordon Ryan. Like the guy is not going to, Bo Nickel's not going to go on the mat and get insta-tapped. You know, I'm not at all worried about that. So yeah, I think Bo's going to run through him, probably knock him out in all likelihood. And I think people are going to forget about the Paul Craig fight. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Dixon says I'm a Bo lever. Honestly, I feel like Bo would be getting over chalked a lot. But now I feel like it's correcting the other way where it's like, he's getting penalized for winning an easy decision, and he's taking on a guy who needs him on the mat, who cannot get him there. You know, you there, Legs? No? Okay. Moving on. We got the main event, Corey Sandhagen taking on Deiveson Figueiredo. Corey Sandhagen, giant favorite here. He's minus 450. The comeback on Figueiredo is plus 350. I think the line's probably a little wide. I have not been a fan of Figueiredo fighting at 135 pounds. I bet Jan in his last fight against him. I lost money trying to fade him with Rob Font. That did not go well. At the end of the day, I mean, Corey, he's got much better volume. He's got much better cardio. What I do think, though, is Figueiredo found a way to have moments against Peter Yan, who's a much more physically imposing fighter than Corey Sandhagen is and much more durable. I do think he's going to have moments here. Like, do I think he'll knock out Corey? Probably not, but I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if he got like 3 or 4 takedowns here that were able to swing, close rounds. I wouldn't be shocked if he got a couple moments that were able to swing rounds towards him. Now, Sandhagen's the better fighter. He has a much more reliable work rate, and down the stretch, he's probably going to be able to put it on him a bit. But we've also seen Corey be a bit more tentative lately in terms of the volume when he's come up against power punchers. So, yeah, I mean, I think Corey deserves to be a large favorite in this fight. But I do think, the market is perhaps dismissing, the kind of variance in trigger, like variance-inducing tools that Figueiredo brings to the table. Yeah, like he's got submission upside, he's got knockout upside, he's got moment upside, he's got takedown upside. No, he doesn't have point volume upside, but like he has. I mean, this is a guy who won a decision off knockdowns against Brandon Moreno. He won multiple decisions against Moreno, really. So like, I feel the market's being a little bit disrespectful. What?
Right. High floor.
What? High floor, very high floor, very high floor. Now his ceiling, I think, is fairly low as well. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, a more competitive fight than the line indicates. I don't know if I'll bet him. If it blows back over plus 400, I might take like a tiny poke on him. But yeah, my instinct here is that Corey will win a large majority of the time, but that it's not going to be a wire-to-wire easy walk in the park. What do you think, Lags?
It's not going to be a wire-to-wire walk in the park, but I think it's maybe, if anything, going to have like one hairy moment maybe in the first round, like early-ish. Like, I think Corey has big volume upside, much longer fighter in terms of the striking, in terms of the grappling. I think he can even land his own takedowns. Much better cardio here. In terms of durability, I'm not super worried on the Corey side either. Like,
yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I think Big Juice is kind of fine. Like, I don't know. I was looking at the under, and I guess that kind of interests me. But like,
what is the under?
Under 4.5 plus 200.
That's pretty big. That is pretty big. But I also took the under against Umar, and that ended up being like, didn't even sniff an under, Right. So, but I get what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to bet Deiveson, like I said. I just think I agree with all the arguments that he's a terrible minute winner. I've been making those arguments for years. I just feel like all the things that burned me in the past, that people were considering then, no one's considering now, which is that the guy hits really hard. He does get takedowns and he does get submissions. Like, that's a pretty good skill set for offsetting, volume. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm with you. I think Corey will win the fight. Yeah, guys, and that'll do it. I mean, ho-hum card here, not a lot of action as of yet. Might take CD eventually, might take Misha, but otherwise not a lot, just similar to last week. We have a big pay-per-view next week. That's the Canada card, which I am actually going to with Chad. Flying out there. Yeah, I'm flying out day of Chad's picking me up from the airport. We're going to the show, and then I'm flying back at 8 a.m. for Mother's Day the next day. So it's only an hour flight, so it's not too bad. But yeah, so that'll be interesting. Maybe we'll have Chad on the show next week if he's around. What do you think?
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah, have a Canadian on for
Hopefully
Canada.
My connection can hold up then. No, it's probably too great tonight. I don't know how has it been.
It's been better than last week, but still not the best. I don't know. Your connection was fine for like a year, and now the last 2 weeks you've had some choppiness here.
And
so
I don't know what to say. Like I'm literally like I was saying last week. It's like same spot. No idea.
Well, hopefully we can get it worked out. But yeah, guys, thanks for stopping by tonight. We appreciate it. Drop a like, subscribe, share. We'll see you next week, same time. Take it easy. Peace.